turn your mobile phones off, please, if you can remember. And I think everyone in this room knows how to escape. Just follow the officers and you should be all right. Okay, apologies for absence. Yes, Liz.
Apologies from Councillor Liz Kitchen.
Yes, because Liz is recovering, isn't she still? She looked well when we saw her on screen the other night. Minutes of the last meeting, can I take those approved? Okay. Declaration of members' interests, are there any for the items on the agenda? No? Okay. Announcements, I haven't got any. Have any other cabinet members or the chief exec got any? Oh, yes? Lynn.
Thank you, Leader. I'm going to stand up. I would like everyone to offer huge congratulations to Emma and the building control team. Yet again, we've got 3 regional winners. We've got Best Residential and Small Commercial Designer, Public Service Superstar, and Best Partnership. I think it's great news. And they go forward now to the finals in London in January. And we'll be jumping up and down and cheering them, won't we? Thank you.
Right, thank you, Lynn. All right, public question times. Have we got any? No questions? No? Okay, that was quick. Right, so item 6, this is the update on the council's financial position. I'll ask the cabinet member for finance and parking to introduce this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. I'm not going to stand up because I think I speak further closer when I'm nearer to the microphone. So, update on the council's financial position 2022-23 and the medium-term financial strategy update. This report is an update informing us about how we're doing in the current financial year and updates some of the assumptions within our medium-term financial planning where things have changed since February. The context is still, of course, very uncertain. Inflation is at a 40-year high, pushing up costs significantly. There is a very big risk to the financial health of the council, and it has significantly changed since the picture last painted in February. Interest rates are the highest they've been in 14 years. World events are having an impact on the price of raw material and energy prices. There are salary increase pressures on the budget. There is no further clarity on government future funding and how the future of business rates, fair funding or levelling up may affect us. There is no certainty on the context or length of settlement we may get in December, although we now hope for this to be a 2-year rather than a single year, which would help us plan for the future a little better. There is no certainty on whether we're mandated to collect food waste in the future or whether we might be required to do so or not. However, or we may or may not get the funding to do this. What we do know is that the proposed current pay settlement for 2022-23 is £1,925 per person, which is much higher, and that's almost £1 million, £900,000 a year higher than anticipated in our budget, which will effectively reduce the set overall budget £0.6 million surplus to a £0.3 million deficit. So I think that's our current picture. We're currently forecasting to miss it and be a deficit by 0.3 million if our operational net expenditure underspend forecast holds true at the end of this year. Without action, future years look even bleaker, with a deficit of around £1 million a year due to the high impact of staff inflation costs and the £1.3 million projected cost of food waste from September 2024. There are 2 main strategies to mitigate such gaps in a budget: either decrease costs or increase income, or a mixture of the combination of both. In November 2020, the council reduced staffing costs and cutting around £1.4 million of costs out of the budget, but continued to deliver the same quality of service as before. We are now finding this has stretched our staff, and issues with recruitment and retention are starting to emerge. Whilst this has put us on a better financial footing, it means that our significantly reduced expenditure in future would effectively require stopping some of our non-statutory services that are highly valued by our residents. As part of the budget processing set each year, officers challenge and try to deliver services more effectively and on a line-by-line basis, helping to control costs effectively as best they can. This report, therefore, puts more emphasis on increasing income and revenue, although we must be mindful that some of our residents are also struggling with the impact of the wider economic situation and may not be able to afford the inflation levels above 10% plus price increases. This report models of how increasing some of our fees and charges help us bring the budget down to the size of the deficits to a near balanced budget by the future council. We are proposing increasing council tax by the maximum £5 rather than by 2% than we did last year. This is £3.25 for an average Band D household. We are proposing increasing the price of garden waste by £5 each year, so from £44 to £49, which is still much less charged than by other authorities in West Sussex. We have done a £2 price increase previously. And we're proposing increasing our fees and charges where possible for in the region around 6%, which also fits in the wider principle that the user pays. This, of course, is just the first snapshot of the budget and the medium-term financial strategy this year. We know the final figures won't be exactly set out here. Assumptions we have used will undoubtedly change over the next few weeks and months. We'll bring back an updated medium-term financial strategy again to you in November with more detailed picture will start to emerge as we input the impact of inflation on every budget line in the draft ledger for next year. And we hope further updates will have started to emerge from government. We will set our 2023-24 budget in February next year, knowing that the content of the December settlement which will give us more certainty. Therefore, with this in mind, that the report is asking Cabinet to note the changes to the Council's financial position in 22-23 and the options available to try to mitigate the future gaps in the medium-term financial budget. It is also recommended to Council to approve the fees and charges for the room hire as detailed in paragraph 3.22. Thank you.
Right, Cabinet members, any thoughts? No, quite happy to, right? Anyone in the room? Yes. Martin.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you very much for the report, which you're going to present anyway. But thank you very much for that and for the summary you put forward. I won't dwell too much on the wider elements at the moment because obviously, as you said, it's going to come forward a couple more times in the year. I just wanted to home in on a very minor point, a little bit you referred to at the end, the fees and charges. It feels odd to be referring to it here because obviously this is a much weighty tone, but this is where it is. So around the charge out rates for the Blackbridge Community Centre. So we're setting standard rates here, and I know that one of the issues we sometimes have in our constitutional setup is that this becomes quite a rigid thing, in that then you don't have flexibility. You can't make any changes to such items without bringing them back to council. And one of the issues that could be had is that these are set rates for the hire of this facility. It'll be the same rate on this basis, whether you book one children's party on one-off occasion or whether you actually want to book out the place twice a week for 50 weeks out of the year, which I don't think is really the kind of level of flexibility we would like to see on this when we're looking at longer term hires. So I believe, I wrote to you the other day about this, so I'm sure you're aware of this issue, but I just wanted to see if we could get clarification on whether we'll be able to build in some flexibility into the charge out rates for that centre without having, so that we can actually accommodate the needs of the community for the longer term users without then having to actually bring it back to council every time. Thanks.
Thank you. To answer your question, Head of Property Brian does have some flexibility regarding leases. Fees are fixed, as you say, by council, by cabinet. The hourly rate charge is prescriptive and is fixed, and obviously it does open a whole can of worms as to, who we give a discount to and when we give a discount to. So I believe the council slightly get round this by Brian, who's head of property, has delegated authorities, delegated powers from the director of property to negotiate lease and negotiate long-term rentals, and is authorised under delegated powers to agree those. So it does have to be, as you alluded to, a sort of a year rent, and it does need to be a licensed occupier or a lease, and to sort of, I should say, get round to mitigate to make sure it's constitutionally viable within the context of our parameters. So it would be very tricky for us to reword something, but I believe that the flexibility you're after is already there. And if you're not getting that's help and support from Brian, obviously come back to myself and then come back to Dominic. But I think we have already got ways that this issue is being dealt with across the council.
Thank you very much. If he could just be reminded of that in the first instance, because I will be in touch with him about it in the future.
Thank you.
I think we have to slightly be careful on, because if you could imagine flexibility on the standard rate, saying you're paying standard rate and you're booking it every week for the year. But when it comes to the community rate, you get a discount on your discount. It's one of those moot points. But I think it's a very fair conversation, and I'm sure we'll have a conversation going forward without it being too much of a problem for everyone involved. So any other things on the budget? Because it's not really the budget, this is the medium term, right? So all agreed on this? Agreed. Thank you. Right, so that's item 7. We come back to the Cabinet Member for Finance and Parking.
Thank you, Leader. I believe it's page 27, your executive summary. The recommendations in front of you to approve decommissioning of London Road car park and investigating alternative uses for the land. I believe the report is quite self-explanatory, but this car park hasn't been used for the past 2 years. It was a very small car park that was used by season ticket users only. Whilst we have seen a very healthy recovery of our car park usage in general in the town centre, and our income from car parks is doing well, and the local economy is doing very well. The huge area we've suffered in is the change to working behaviours. Our season ticket sales are hugely down. Off the top of my head, it's around 66% down. We don't have as many people using our commuter car parks. We don't have as many people commuting to London. And it is the season tickets we have particularly suffered in. So this car park hasn't been used for 2 years. We do have an obligation and legal requirement as a council to make best use of our assets and best use of our land. And it is the recommendation before you today that we close this car park, decommission it, on the basis that season ticket sales are 66% down, and we're not predicting a particular recovery for this, and we have ample parking in other town centre car parks. So I recommend that we all approve the recommendation on page 27 to approve the decommissioning of London Road car park and investigate alternative options, and I'm open to questions. Thank you.
Cabinet members? Okay. Yes, Ruth.
Well, thank you very much. As one of the local members, I'd absolutely agree that this is a prime example of a site that we can make better use of than as a car park. So I do look forward to us developing some really good plans for the future of this land. Clearly, right at the top of the list is of the obvious things to look for is to provide some very high quality, affordable social housing for our residents. And I hope we will be pursuing that and looking at how we can make that a really good place to live, not just filling up the space.
Tony?
No, thank you, Ruth. Obviously, we're just talking specifically tonight about the decommissioning, but I'm sure that affordable housing will be an option that is explored on that land.
Thank you, Ruth. Good point. Thank you. Right. So, are we all happy, Cabinet members, to agree recommendation on page 27?
Agreed.
Okay. Thank you. So, if we go to item 8, this is support of community energy Horsham. Can I have a report from the Cabinet Member for Environment and Rural Affairs, please?
Thank you, Leader. It's with a great amount of excitement that I bring to you the proposal to partner with Community Energy Horsham. We were introduced to them by a fellow councillor, and we're really excited by their innovative business model. It's the opportunity to forward our carbon reduction plan. We obviously have our own targets to get to net zero by 2030, but then it's our partners and our contractors that we're looking to decarbonise after that. And this is an opportunity to start that decarbonisation early and importantly with no cost to the council. And it's a great opportunity to work with a community company which will be working with local investors to generate the money to put these solar panels. And at the moment we're looking at the first building is the bridge. which is really exciting. So I commend this all to you. They've been a joy to work with, and we're really looking forward to this hopefully being the start of a wider project. We're helping them promote Community Energy Horsham to other businesses and community organisations in the district. So if you have a flat roof or one that is south facing and it's a large square footage, do get in touch.
Thank you, James. Any cabinet members? Roger.
Thank you, Leader. I'm not sure if I should stand now or sit.
Whatever you fancy.
I think I'll sit, if you don't
you.
mind. I think standing is just for... You're meant to stand.
No, not as
No. No. Well, I'm going to stay sitting. Right, thank you, Leader. I fully support this recommendation as Cabinet Member for Leisure and Culture, as not only does the Bridge Leisure Centre operate under my portfolio, but one of the principal aims of this administration and this council is to meet our own carbon reduction targets by 2030. And this is a bold start to achieving that aim. Also, by supporting this recommendation, our council will be leading the way for the use of PV panels on as many of our public buildings as possible. And I hope to see this example as a blueprint for many of our other public buildings. Furthermore, by using the bridge, we will be showing support for our contracted leisure tenants who are there, Places Leisure, who have agreed to keep to the terms of their contract with us, despite the current rise in energy prices from traditional energy sources. And so this added bonus of cheaper power will be of great help to them to maintain that contract as well as to this council. So I fully support this recommendation.
Thank you, Roger. Any other cabinet member want to add anything at the moment? No? Go to the floor. Ruth?
Well, thank you very much. I was very pleased to be able to introduce this project to the council, and I'd like to thank the officers for the enthusiasm with which they took it up and the cabinet for adopting it with such enthusiasm. It is really important that we take big steps like this to actually deal with the decarbonisation and the energy crisis, and this is a particularly good example, as Councillor Noel says, of supporting the leisure facilities that we have. I really wish this well. It looks like an excellent scheme. It does have some limitations in the types of properties that it looks at, and I would urge the council not to be limited simply by the parameters of this particular community energy scheme. For example, we really do need to look at the swimming pools that we have around the district, which are very high energy users, but not necessarily going to be suitable for this particular scheme, and there will be other schemes that can be brought along that will help us in that. We also own other properties such as car parks, which don't technically meet the criteria that this scheme is looking at, but which have great potential and have elsewhere been used for energy generation. So a great start and further to go, I hope.
Thank you, Ruth. James, do you want to follow that? I'm totally in favour of this. Small steps, prudent steps. We're learning as we go, as we've already found in some of the buildings we've decarbonised already. There's huge lessons to learn on this, and we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves or even get too ahead of the technology. But the technologies seem to be coming our way, and I think in the next 10 years you're going to see such radical changes. It'll be unbelievable in the way we live our lives and the way we deal with these actual crises that we're all facing at the moment. So it's a good step by Horsham District. Thank you, Ruth, for championing this, and for the James and his colleagues for taking it forward. So is everyone in favour of this? Please just show. Agreed. Okay, thank you all very much. So we now go to item 9, Housing Register and Nominations Policy Revisions. the report from the Cabinet Member for Housing and Public Protection.
Yes, thank you. The Council adopted its new Housing and Homeless Strategy 2021 to 26 in October 2021. As part of the strategy, 5 overall objectives were identified to assist us in tackling the changes surrounding housing and homelessness in Horsham District. The objectives are: 1, to ensure no one needs to sleep rough through having no other choice. 2 is to empower residents to live independently in their own homes. 3 is to deliver the number and size of affordable homes that our communities and residents need in line with planning policies. 4 is to provide and maintain an accessible and fair housing register. And 5 is to prevent all forms of homelessness for our district's residents. Objective 4 relates to our housing register, and more specifically about ensuring our approach to allocating permanent accommodation through our housing register and nominations policy continues to make the best use of our accommodation made available to the Council. The purpose of this report is to propose changes to the Council's housing register and nominations policy in order to improve the process used to meet the housing needs of those who require housing within the Horsham District. Each of the proposed changes are detailed within the report and have been subject to review from housing colleagues and stakeholders. They have also been discussed in detail at my Policy Development Advisory Group, for which I thank all members of my PDAC for their input, challenge and support to get to this position. There has also been a period of public consultation and the completion of an equality impact assessment to ensure the proposals don't adversely impact any residents with a protected characteristic. To ensure the Council fulfills its statutory responsibility of having a current adopted housing register and nominations policy, Cabinet is recommended to approve the proposed changes and recommend to full Council that the revised housing register and nominations policy is adopted. Any questions?
Thank you. Cabinet members, have you anything to raise? No? Go to the floor. Anyone there? Tricia, all I can say is it's interesting to read the objectives again and for you to spell them out. Certainly for my administration, they're really high objectives, and it's one of the driving things that I wish to achieve. Can I just say that how important it is, if we're going to deliver affordable houses and deliver for our affordable housing company, we have to look at land that is available where we can get better community use from it than it is probably doing at the moment. And we should keep an open mind on any land that comes forward that we can make better use of as a community, especially to address some of these problems. As we see out in the real world outside of Horsham District, there are a lot more challenges coming our way, and for parts of the community that we haven't seen in the past. So I do wholeheartedly support what you're doing here, Tricia, and your entire team. We're a wealthy community, but we do have people who are disadvantaged, and we should be willing to be really supportive in helping them as well. And to say these objectives are really strong objectives, and to deliver them, it's not easy. But luckily, we've got a good team, an enthusiastic team, who will help and drive those objectives. So are we all prepared to, Cabinet, accept the recommendations on page 38 to approve the proposed changes and recommendations to full council? Thank you, that's all agreed. Right. Item 10 is the business case for Horsham District Homes for affordable homes at Duke Square. Brings the very subject back up to into focus. Can I ask the Cabinet Member for Housing and Public Protection?
Yes, thank you. In March 2019, Cabinet approved the creation of 2 companies for the purpose of providing affordable rental housing in the district. Horsham District Homes Limited, HDH, a development company, and the Horsham District Homes Holdings Limited, HDHH, were both incorporated in 2019. To date, the housing companies have completed 2 Section 106 site acquisitions and are imminently due to complete 3 family homes on former council-owned land in Billingshurst. The directors of the Horsham District Homes have identified a further site for development within the Duke Square in Horsham and have liaised over a long period with stakeholders through both my Policy Development Advisory Group and the Finance and Parking PDAG, and with local community organisations. The business case is attached to this report and proposes to deliver 8 affordable rented properties as phase 1 of the overall plan for Duke Square, Horsham. The transfer value of this project is estimated to be 1.56 million and would be funded through the use of Section 106 funds, which the council holds to support the delivery of affordable homes. The rental levels of the finished homes will be set at the appropriate local housing allowance rate for the size and location of the property. This ensures those households on the lowest incomes and in receipt of income-related benefits can receive full support with their rent if needed. There will also be allocated parking of space per property. Allocation of these homes will be made via the Council Housing Register. Cabinet is therefore recommended to approve the business case so that the directors can secure planning consent and tender the construction contract. In addition, Cabinet is recommended to delegate authority to the Section 151 officer and Cabinet member for Finance and Parking to approve the final figures forming part of the final business case. Thank you.
Any comments from Cabinet members? Floor, anyone? Ruth?
Thank you very much. Another item that falls within my ward. This is another example of a site that really does have a better use. It's excellent to see that we are actively pursuing developing the empty garages, which have been sitting there doing not very much for so long. As local members, we've always been keen that we should have an ambitious and holistic view for the development of this site, rather than just putting some development in the empty garages. And we were very encouraged in consultations that this was developing into a development vision for the whole site. So I'm really disappointed to see that without further consultation, we've reverted back to just a development of those empty garages. And although nominally the report talks about there being a phase 1 and a phase 2, in reality, there is no phase 2 because of the technical problems with the demolition for the QM stores. So what we've got is really not part of a holistic scheme. And as it stands, although I realise this is just a business case at this stage, the indicative scheme for those garages is not really the place to live that we would want to see for our residents, in particular to deal with the provision of access to community and green space, and the way that the drill hall is integrated or not, in this case, into that scheme. So I really hope that going forward, we can look at doing something better with the rest of the space that is there and improving the detail of the design of some of the buildings themselves. One of the things that was very much agreed amongst the local members and others was that this is a great case for somewhere where we can make provision for people with disabilities. And I know that's mentioned in the current scheme, but we really ought to be maximising the opportunity here to provide for people on the ground floor, particularly with disabilities. And that's it's not a secured part of this scheme as far as I can see. So I hope that we will be able to make ground back on where we were before in terms of that landscaping, holistic development, having a vision as we move forward to get more out of this site and to make better provision for the people who are going to be living there.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going, yes, Tricia, yeah.
Yes, thank you very much, Councillor Fletcher. I'd emphasise that this is stage one. Stage one, as we wish Cabinet to agree, we are absolutely determined that the entire site will be developed, as you should know, because you sit as a member of my PDAC and you're a local member. And we fully intend that it will be the best that can possibly be delivered, as I rather hope that you would know. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't believe I am a member of your PDAC.
You have been to my PDACs. You've asked to go and you have
Yes, I
attended.
have been to your PDACs and I've been happy to be there.
Ruth, thank you for attending those PDACs. Really important because, yeah, I welcome this. I also agree with you that some of us had an ambitious and holistic view of the whole site. We are set on a certain course at the moment, and this is how we're dealing with that issue. This is a unique site. We don't get very many sites which are in the town centre and which offer the opportunity for affordable homes, because most people who have affordable homes find it difficult to afford transport, and from there you can walk everywhere, and you don't need to, and the cost of living must be to live in such a unique space for those who are less fortunate is wonderful. So whatever we can deliver, we should certainly try to deliver and take full advantage of that entire site. Maybe future opportunities to do something a little bit better might come along, as you say, but this is the first stage. It's not the complete answer, and we will look to see whether that changes any time in the future, but at least we're starting that journey, and if nothing else happens, we will get something there. So can I just ask, is Cabinet members all happy to support the recommendation? Please show. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. Right, well, I won't read all this out. So item 11, A boards and advertising structures, Cabinet member for Horsham Town.
Thank you, Leader. Leader and Cabinet members, I'm pleased to bring a report on the use of A boards and other advertising structures within Horsham Town, and importantly, not to forget the wider district, which this policy will cover as well. The A boards policy provides a comprehensive guidelines and advice as to the number, the size, the positioning and management of A boards and other advertising structures on the highway. And in the Cabinet papers, the detailed guidance and guidelines are set out at Appendix A. The guidelines have been developed in response to growing concerns about the increasing number, the position and the other types of advertising, such as flag banners, and the visual effect this is having on access and movement around the town centre, and the visual impact in some cases within the town centre conservation area. The guidelines have been developed based on a review of best practice within many other local authorities who are similarly trying to balance the needs of business and pedestrians. The draft guidelines have been widely consulted on, and that includes my Policy Development Advisory Group, and all the consultees are set out at Appendix B of the papers. All organisations contacted have welcomed the guidelines and have contributed to its development. And following representations, importantly, from the RNIB in 2017, West Sussex County Council and our council worked together to ensure that those A boards causing the most obstruction were either removed or relocated. And that involved about 32 premises at the time, and most businesses responded voluntarily. Since then, the number of A boards have increased, while the County Council does not have the resources to monitor or enforce A boards on its land. Just pausing there, this helpfully was taken some years ago when, perhaps just before COVID, and in this picture, this image, there's about at least 12 A boards in the Bishopric area. And I think that is sort of the condition, the prevalence that we perhaps had reached. If the policy is supported and adopted by Council, because this would, if this is approved by Cabinet tonight, will go to Council at the end of October, then agreement will be sought for the county council for this council to monitor the county council to monitor and enforce the guidelines on highways land on their behalf. The overall approach will be to promote the policy and guidelines to town centre businesses to achieve general awareness and voluntary compliance to achieve the following outcomes, of which there's really 5 that we really want to seek. Create a street environment which complements premises-based trading but is not unduly cluttered. Secondly, to be sensitive to the needs of residents, provides diversity and consumer choice. Thirdly, to enhance the character, the ambience and the safety of the local environment. Fourthly, to ensure safe and unimpeded public access along the pavement and footways. And lastly, to prevent the use of A-boards in locations where they can't be appropriately sited. I would seek the Cabinet's approval to recommend to Council, which, as I say, is in October on the 19th, to approve the A-boards policy, the guidelines and enforcement procedure which is set out in the report. This has been a long time coming, and I know that other Cabinet members before me and other councillors have worked over many years, but we have got there. So for that, I'm pleased, and I again thank all those that have been involved and consultees, such as including Horsham Den Neighbourhood Council. So I'm happy to take any questions, Leader. Thank you.
Cabinet members have any questions? Roger.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Leader. It's not a question. It's actually just a question of supporting this. I know that this has come about largely because of the problems that we've had in Horsham with A-boards and other signage which have been obstructing views and obstructing the streets of Horsham. But I'm a rural councillor, and I come up from the rural towns in the south and the villages as well. These towns were basically market towns which had tracks running through them in the 17th and 18th century, and as modern transports progressed, the roads have all got wider and the pavements have become more and more narrow. However, traders insist on obstructing pavements with A-boards and flags and various other advertisements, and it makes it incredibly difficult for not only pedestrians but wheelchair users and disabled people to actually get along the pavements of our small villages and towns down in the rural areas. Obviously, there's other rural areas in the north as well. I do appreciate. I'm not trying to be in any way district orientated to the north and south. All I'm saying is not only Horsham town, but the whole of the district is going to benefit from this control of A-boards and advertising. So it's very, very welcome, not only in Horsham, but from everywhere else as well. So I fully endorse this. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm surprised you got pavements down there. Are you sure you got pavements? Right, Tony.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to support the document and congratulate the Cabinet member on getting it to Cabinet and fingers crossed to Council next month. It's been a long time coming. It's something that's been an issue in our town centre for the past 10-15 years. So I'm absolutely pleased. I think it's a sign of a PDAG actually making policy and bringing policy back before Cabinet. I see a lot of PDAG agendas and I see a lot of briefings, a lot of updates, and I sometimes don't see too many policies sort of being written and developed at PDAG. So I just wanted to congratulate the Cabinet member in getting that. I particularly like section 6.6 that says about a £5,000 fine, because I see a lot of people with these A-boards and flags and balloon towers, and I sometimes think a slap on the wrist. I'm hoping that large fine figure there will encourage lots of people not to fail to comply with the policy. So thank you, Leader. Congratulations to the Cabinet member.
Well, Horsham is going to be a district where you shouldn't put A-boards out or drop litter going forward. Anyway, any other Cabinet member want to say anything? No? Yes, Martin.
Thank you. I just wanted to join in thanking Councillor Mitchell for pushing this one forward. It's been persevering with it. I'm sure Ruth will agree with me that he's right, that this has been a long-standing concern for both Horsham Horsham Den Neighbourhood Council and I believe the Horsham Society as well. And I also suspect that Councillor Hogben's being a little too modest in that I know he played a very significant role in getting this onto the agenda in the first place. So yes, thank you to both of you.
So, agree the recommendation on page 59. Thank you. Right, item 12, SIL governance for the unparished areas of Horsham Town. Can I call on Cabinet Member for Planning and Development?
Thank you, Leader. This council implemented its community infrastructure levy in October 2017. This allows funds to be raised by developers to pay for the infrastructure that is needed to support growth. The governance arrangements for the main SIL receipts was agreed by full council in December 2019. There is a further need to agree governance arrangements for the unparished area of Horsham Town, as it is not subject to the same legislative spending process detailed in the SIL regulations for parish councils. Having governance arrangements in place for the town will enable the neighbourhood portion of collected SIL to be spent on infrastructure in Horsham Town. The proposal is to delegate the governance arrangements to the Director of Place in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Planning and Development and the Cabinet Member for the town. If Cabinet agree, then further consultations will ensue with relevant members and neighbourhood councils before any governance arrangements are finalised. The recommendations are on page 77.
Thank you. Any Cabinet comments? Yeah, Christian.
Thank you, Leader. Only to support the Cabinet Member for Planning, Councillor Lambert. It's something that I've supported Councillor Lambert on and have spoken to the 3 neighbourhood councils when we have our regular quarterly meetings and between them as well. So for the reasons that we know the way that how our town is constituted or not being the point, this is why we need this policy and this governance arrangement, but I fully support it and it will be particularly democratic actually. Thank you.
Any other Cabinet members? No? Right, look, Martin.
Thank you, Leader. I should probably start out by, just for full disclosure, I remain a neighbourhood councillor in Trafalgar and also a member of the Blueprint Neighbourhood Forum Steering Group. I'm glad to see that a governance process is coming forward for this, but I do think there's a slight missing point in here, and it does go to that rather appositely mentioned point of democracy. I understand the point that if it's approved, further consultations will take place, but there's nothing like seeing it actually in writing, if you ask me, in terms of actually building confidence. This should really be in consultation with local members as well, because we're in a situation here where it's very different for the neighbourhoods to what it is for the parishes in all of the rest of the district. And I often hear us being told, this council, we always try and treat them exactly the same, but this is not the same here. Every other parish in the district gets their 15% or their 25% of the SIL twice a year, and that's that. Whereas here, it's going to stay with Horsham District Council to carry it out, and I would really like to see us moving towards as close as possible to that principle within the Act to actually deliver localisms.
Yes. Excuse me, Leader. Can I come back?
Yeah, yes.
Councillor Boffey, the final paragraph states quite clearly, if Cabinet agree, there will be further consultations with the relevant members and the neighbourhood councils before any governance arrangements are put in place. There will be a board made up of relative members in this arrangement. It will not be the council. Thank you.
Well, why didn't you just put it in the recommendation then?
I'm telling you now. Delegated to the Director of Place, myself, then we can then move forward with the actual governance arrangements and who will be on that board. Thank you.
So, Martin, that's you putting your place, and me as well, because I agree. So hopefully this will happen. If it doesn't, please come back to us. Okay? Right. Any other comment from Cabinet members? Right. Can we all agree this with the caveat that the Cabinet member for Planning has said about consultation and the board? Are we all in favour? Agreed. Thank you. 13, and we're back with the Cabinet Member for Planning and Development. Consultation on proposed designation of a new conservation area, especially the Wells cottages, which we all know about in the south. It's a whole new thing for those who live in the north, but for us who live in the south, we do nothing but worry about Wells cottages. But I'll leave it to the Cabinet Member for Planning, please.
Thank you. Thank you for seeing the local member for West Chiltern come along to support this, because they're absolutely beautiful, aren't they? In Horsham District, we have 37 adopted conservation areas. We also have a rolling programme of conservation area appraisals and management plans for these 37 areas. There is also a legal duty placed upon LPAs to review whether other parts of their district or borough should be recognised as a conservation area, if they identify areas of special architectural or historical interest. In this respect, the area characterised by the Wells cottages in West Chiltern has been identified as having special architectural and historic interest. And do look at the appendices, because they're absolutely beautiful. The group of Wells cottages was constructed by Reginald Fairfax Wells during the interwar period and have evolved a distinctive character which contributes to a unique sense of place. We are of the view that this area is worthy of designation as a conservation area. In addition, the existing Rusper Conservation Area has been reviewed, and it is suggested that it is extended to include the gardens of Gill Manor to the north. This would be consistent with and enhance the character of the existing conservation area. In order to progress these two proposals, it is necessary to undertake a wider public consultation. I am therefore proposing that Cabinet agree to publish the draft conservation area appraisals attached to the report for a 5-week consultation. I propose this consultation commences on the 6th of October and runs until the 10th of November 2022. This will ensure that all those who wish to respond are in a position to do so. Following this consultation exercise, a report summarising the responses will be prepared and presented to Cabinet. Subject to the outcome of the consultation, the new conservation area designation and this extension to the existing Rusper conservation area, plus accompanying management plans, will help inform future planning decisions for development within or adjoining these areas. The recommendations are on page 83 and 84. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other Cabinet member wish to say? Yes. Tricia.
Yes, thank you. I'm thoroughly in agreement with this. I think that we must preserve our heritage, and I think it's really good news that it's going to go out to public consultation. It's going to give so many different areas the opportunity, and I think it's excellent. So I thoroughly approve of it.
Thank you very much. Any other Cabinet? Roger?
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to endorse that. Of course, West Chiltern's down the south, so I've got to support this. No, Wells cottages are a unique design, and they have never been replicated, and they've got to be preserved for the future, purely for their architectural merit, and I fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you. From the floor, John, do you want to? I'm sure you've come here particularly on this. You don't need to stand.
Thank you,
You don't need to stand, John, unless you want to.
First start, I would like to thank the officers for the very comprehensive summary of the history of the Wells cottages. If you read that, it really does go into how it all developed. We go back to, of course, the arts and craft movement in the beginning of the last century. Morris, Lutyens, Gertrude Jekyll, all that. That was the framework of it. And the fact that they started off as almost weekend holiday cottages was really quite interesting to see how it's all developed. Those on Planning South will not be surprised to say that I'm obviously delighted this is coming, because they've no doubt got fed up with myself and Philip Circus really saying we've got to do something about this. And we have done something about it now with this proposal. So I really do hope that we can take this on board and stop what has happened in some cases whereby people have come into the district, into the area, brought a smallish house on a large plot of land and regard the plot of land as their pension fund, because they can sell off and build another house in the area. And you know, there's been a few of this. There was a bad case, as I go past it quite frequently, in Gove Lane with Birch Tree Cottage there, and it has, when it's gone through, completely altered the character of that part of Gove Lane. And if this helps to protect this type of development, so much the better. And I recommend that we should approve this. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other comments? Okay. Yeah, I just want to say I hope this is the first step in many of these sort of conservation areas across the district. Not only does it protect our heritage, but it protects our landscape and it protects the area we live in. So this is great to actually get this one underway. And if you ever want to go and visit the Wells Cottages, please take a map and a compass, because it's one of the best places to get lost in West Sussex. So can I ask Cabinet members, are you all in favour of this recommendation? Agreed. Agreed. Thank you. So if I go on to item 14 and ask the Cabinet Member for Planning and Development to give us item 14 on biodiversity and environmental infrastructure planning guidance documents.
Thank you, Leader. Facilitating appropriate development and biodiversity and green infrastructure planning guidance documents. The new local plan has been delayed, most recently by water neutrality. It is therefore considered that until it is adopted, it will be beneficial to provide updated planning guidance documents to be utilised in the consideration of planning applications to reflect changes to national planning guidance and law since the current local plan, the HDPF, was adopted. The FAD, Facilitating Appropriate Development document, therefore clearly sets out the Council's aspirations and the weight that can be given to current and emerging policy within the context of current legislation, as well as national policy and guidance. This gives guidance on the interpretation of policies where the Council is not able to demonstrate a 5-year housing land supply, which means the MPPF's presumption in favour of sustainable development is likely to apply to any speculative applications should applicants be able to demonstrate water neutrality. It also refers applicants to emerging local plan evidence, which indicates there is a potential to deliver a greater percentage of affordable homes than in our current local plan. Policies and seeks to encourage promoters to consider this as part of any emerging proposals they may prepare. A key aim of the biodiversity and green infrastructure planning advice note is to provide guidance on the consideration of these issues in the transition period before the provisions of the new Environment Act 2021 relating to 10% biodiversity net gain comes into force. It sets out our expectations that can be sought in the meantime in accordance with the HDPF and the MPPF and the method for calculating biodiversity to ensure there is no net loss and that some measurable gain is delivered. Note, neither of these two documents can set or update policies. By law, that must come through the local plan preparation process. However, these two documents will, if endorsed, help provide guidance to shape and enhance the quality of planning proposals in the period before the new local plan is adopted. I recommend that Cabinet endorse these documents and also recommend the documents be referred to Council for wider endorsement. Should this endorsement be made at Council, these documents will become material considerations during the consideration of planning application. The recommendations are on page 97.
Any other cabinet member? Catherine, do you want to add anything to this? I know a bit of a surprise asking you at this point, but this is quite an important document.
I don't particularly. I think Lynn summarised it very effectively. I think the key is obviously is it isn't setting policy. You can't do that by law. That's something that we have sought to look into. It does have to come through that local plan process, but it's trying to improve development that comes forward and applications that come forward in that meantime. And particularly, obviously, we've got water neutrality at the moment. It's when we've got applications where that can be demonstrated that this would be of particular significance.
Thank you very much. To the floor, anyone who wants to comment on this? Lynn, do you want to say anything? No?
No, I think I said it all.
Thank you very much. Okay, so can we agree the recommendation on page 97? All those in favour? Agreed. Thank you very much. And item 15, consider matters referred to Cabinet by the overview and scrutiny. Have we got any? No one here? Okay. I've run out of paper here, so I missed something. Have I got anything else on there? Sorry, I've lost the page. There were so many papers. Forward plan. We've got that. Any comments on the forward plan? No. And have we got any matters of particular urgency? No? Right, well, can I thank you all very much for coming to the Cabinet meeting, and we will see you very shortly, I hope. Thank you very much. Thank you.